What's up? We're back. We haven't done like an actual podcast in at least 2 weeks. We've had a couple our guest podcast on. So this is our first one back after our Esk8Con like recap episode. And it's our first time doing one in the morning. So
yeah, I feel like this is like a month-long hangover that's finally over.
Yeah.
It feels like it's like 5 a.m.
Yeah,
doing this podcast.
I am exhausted, and maybe you can hear it in our voice. Yeah. So for that, I apologize. But anyways, welcome to Esk8Exchange, the show where we talk about electric skateboards, MBoards, board bumpers, gecko derm, the convention, whatever else we're talking about in the e-skate industry. That's the show. In the studio today, we've got Jacob, as always.
Morning.
And then we got Maddie back behind camera producing the show. And then we have Milo sitting here on the floor just out of frame. So if you hear anything crazy, it's probably a dog. As he licks himself.
As he grooms himself.
Yeah.
Well, it's morning for him too. So
he's waking up too.
Hey, buddy.
So anyways, I just wanted to say welcome back to our regularly scheduled program. As I promised, we would come back and talk about some things.
So what are we talking about now?
Okay, so we've got a few things. I have a couple things in my mind that I want to talk about. I swear I wrote it all down. Now I can't find where I wrote it down. So you know what? We're just gonna wing it, I guess.
We had a good plan initially to write things down. We were gonna make sure that we didn't forget because that last time with the thing that we forgot that we still can't remember. But,
yep. But anyways, we remembered them though.
We're gonna start recording our daily work sessions, and then we'll just have to go back and be like, okay, I think it happened at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Let's go back and see what we were talking about.
We'll be building a board or whatever, and we'll start this pretty deep conversation about a very specific topic, and we'll go, hold on, this is a great podcast episode. Let's stop talking about it. So we never finish our conversation in real life, and then we never remember to bring it back up in the podcast.
I have had to, on several occasions, pull up the security camera footage in our warehouse to find where the two of you put things. Yeah. Because you forget that you set something down. Yes. Someone stole this. I'm like, did someone steal it? I don't know.
Someone stole it, always.
I've been here 15 minutes today. I already lost my phone. I have no idea where my phone is.
These two together, it's just...
I played with the dog. God. Mike said, hey, I'm ready when you are. I said, okay, let's go. I said, well, let me turn my phone off. I have no idea where it is.
No idea where it is, yeah.
Gone. Maybe Milo.
So you were watching a different podcast where they were discussing purchasing first batch stuff. So take me through that topic and what they were saying. If you want to talk, I don't know what podcast it was. I don't know if it matters.
No, I watched a little bit of it, and it I wouldn't say that it bothered me, but I kind of lost interest. As an advocate or as an enthusiast or even as a fan, when somebody says don't buy first batch orders,
you're saying it's a new product and this is the first go around.
Right. So it's whether the company is new to the market or this particular product is new to the market, the conversation focused on not buying a first batch product, waiting for the bugs to be worked out. Mm-hmm. And then, okay, now I will support you later so that I know I don't have any problems. I don't know. That just, it rubbed me the wrong way in that we're constantly seeking the innovation.
Right.
We're either going to do it ourselves or we're counting on somebody else to do it. But then we throw up these roadblocks or these red flags and say, well, I don't know anything actually about it, and maybe you don't, so I'm not going to support you until somebody else, helps.
Right.
Why would you not want to help with that versus just throwing your hands up? So
I kind of
elaborate on kind of.
I kind of see where people are coming from. They don't want to buy something new in case it just isn't quite right. However, on the flip side of that, if everybody also went by that same rule, we would never ever see anything new. No new companies would form. No innovation would ever occur because there would be no money. There would be no support for these new projects. So, of course, I'm biased. You're a little biased. We are consistently working on first batch things. We are consistently bringing new things to the market. We're currently working on 2 brand new boards right now.
Right.
And those, I guess, will be considered first batch. Now, of course, we learned a lot from our last boards, but still, it's still new. It's a new design. So of course there's going to be things we have to work out. But if nobody wanted to take the leap of faith and like join us on this like project or mission, it would never happen.
Right.
And same thing. And then you could say the same thing about all of these brands, about La Croix, about Evolve, about all these things. If people didn't go, huh, this is really cool. I like what this company is all about. I'm going to support them. If we all said, well, I'm going to wait till next round, none of them would exist for a second round to exist.
It's it's just so tricky, and you can argue it a million different ways. And I'm sure that everybody that, says don't do it, they're going to have the arguments, but these are ours, right? Like these are the way that we feel, and that, the reality is we all get excited when, there's a new part, there's a prototype, there's something cool coming out, because we always want the innovation. But if we don't, as the enthusiasts or the serious users, try them first,
right,
or buy them, I should say buy them first. Esk8 in the community has an absolutely disgusting, terrible habit of just wanting shit for free.
Yep.
Everybody just says, well, just give it to me. I'll do a YouTube review or some shit.
Nope.
And whatever. And it's like, it doesn't work that way. That I don't care enough to send it to you and say, here, make a YouTube or make a post for me. I'll send them to people because I'm like, I think you're going to destroy this part, and I need to know what the limit is.
Right.
Right. Like, that's why we send parts.
That's more valuable to us than a shout out on Instagram.
So the alternative is, okay, we don't do that. We just test it. We do what we want, and we come to market. And enthusiasts and followers and community goers, they don't go buy it. Well, who's going to buy it? New people, right? First-time riders. And then we're going to get feedback from first-time riders, and that's what we're going to have to go off of.
Right.
Oh, this carbon fiber deck is too stiff. It's carbon fiber, dude.
Right.
What do you expect? I wish I would go a little farther. You only went 10 miles. How do you know you need to go? So we don't get the clear picture at that point of what is this product all about. It needs to be pushed. It needs to be pushed hard. I'm sorry if it does break, but that's what warranties are for.
Yeah, that's the thing that I also don't understand. Like, I wouldn't go first batch on something that doesn't carry a warranty.
Right.
Okay, that's a fair. But
that's called beta testing, and that's when a manufacturer is trying to dupe their customers. They put a product out that they say, is new, it's great, but realistically, they're just testing it and they're making you pay for it.
Right.
That's crap.
Yeah, that's
fair. Totally different.
That's not cool.
That's a whole different conversation. I would
also think that, if you were an early adapter of a product,
Adopter.
Sorry. I would think that you would.
Are you an adapter?
No,
you're not an early adapter. That'd be weird.
I don't know. If you get in early, I feel like a company would be more willing to listen to you.
Because for sure.
They're still in the stages of, getting that product off the ground or in front of more people, and they want it to be the best it can be. So I feel like your opinion matters a lot more when you're one of the first people to be experiencing it.
When we first dropped the Interstellar boards, we bent over backwards for our first 10 buyers, I guess, or customers for that board, just because we knew that it was a brand new board. There was going to be a couple quirks that we needed to figure out. So we made sure everything got handled. Our first iteration of motor mounts weren't the best. We updated those. And of course we sent those all out to everybody, but, it still worked out. We made sure everything got handled. Now for these new boards, same way. Yes, it's going to be first batch, but in reality though, isn't all that when does first batch end?
Right.
I don't, for us, because our volume is so weird, you're going to have a board that has first batch components of, this is a first batch motor mount or drivetrain. Or while having the third or fourth batch batteries.
Well, what guarantees your next batches are any better?
Right.
How do you know that the second, third, fourth, things sometimes get worse? Companies say, "Oh, crap, that didn't work. We need to make a change." They make a change, and it's not worse. Always better. Sometimes it's worse.
Or sometimes just stuff gets really stupid expensive overnight, and you have to shift because there's no way there's no financial way of putting it in the boards anymore, and you have to change things. Now we haven't had to do that. Thankfully.
Well, you did, because you went from your Interstellar early on was an 18650.
Oh, you're right.
And
you were right.
batteries disappear. And so you switch to a 40T. So that meant, realistically, if most companies were going to change their entire battery structure, they would just say, oh, crap, we got to start over.
Yeah.
And you figured out a way to work it all in together. Now, mind you, it was a fairly easy swap.
Right.
But, you still had to make sure the BMS was correct. The ESC was going to handle everything. Everything still had to function properly before you could ship that out. You didn't just get a 40T battery in one day, throw it in, and be like, well, we'll see how this goes.
I can tell you this. Our first Interstellar we sent would have been a Fock box and a 10S4P 30Q pack.
Right.
Now, if you want to compare that to what's shipping now, is a 12S3P P42A flexible pack, much better pack.
Right.
With a storm core. So it's like the internals have completely changed. And at this point, I think we're on to our newer motors too.
Right.
So like all of our electronics have been completely changed as of the last couple months, just because we're just slowly
So what batch is that? Because it's like when does it start? When does it end? When do you trust a company enough?
That's exactly what we designed those boards to be able to do, which was to adapt to different parts and different things. Like Mike always compared it to Tesla just because he follows that company very closely.
I know Tesla inside and out. I know Tesla I invest in Tesla. I own a Tesla. I follow Tesla very closely. And what you'll realize is,
I just figured it out. That's what your kid's name is going to be, isn't it?
Oh, geez. No.
Oh, I got it. Nailed it.
So Tesla, you'll buy a 2019 Tesla, but the 2019s and 2020s are the exact same cars. And actually, an early 2019 versus a late 2019 can be drastically different. Not drastically, but what they do is they do small incremental changes randomly. They don't have a 2019 model and a 2020 model. Like every other legacy auto brand has, well, this is our 2019, and then our 2020 looks so much
for
different.
Like 5 years until they revamp it, you know, and it's this like long, drawn out process.
Right. So like every year without fail, there's something different about all these different cars. But Tesla's like, nope, like randomly in the middle of 2019, they changed their USB ports in the back from USB like A to USB C. But they just
oh no,
crazy, But it was a small thing. Later, they changed the center console to instead of a flip up top, it was like a slide top. But the year of the car didn't change. So my point is like they've changed their cars so like now if you look at a 2017 versus 2022, like the internals they look pretty much the same, but a lot of the finishes are very different. You can clearly tell that there's been updates.
It's a newer car, it should be
right. But what's interesting is if you just looked at every single iteration of that they've changed the car 50 times in the last 5 years, you really wouldn't notice it, from iteration to iteration. But when you look at the most recent batch compared to the first batch, they're pretty different. And I think that's how our boards have started out too. Still the same car.
Whereas like other car companies specifically, but also other board companies, if they're going to make a change about the board, like even if it's minor, they probably would just call it a new version.
Well, think about it like this. If you want to
2.0
take a look at just to stay in the car industry, the Corvettes, right? You take a look at what's the new Corvette now. It looks like a freaking supercar compared to, now I could be wrong. Maybe these are two different versions of the Corvette, but as far as I knew, like the newest ones look like freaking Ferraris.
Yeah.
And then the other ones looked like traditional looking Corvettes.
It's crazy. I mean, not to get too, I'm a huge Corvette fan. I've owned them. Like I love them. But if you actually put those side by side, real rendering of it, they're only different by like 6 inches. They've completely changed what's under the skin.
Right.
The engine went from the front to the back. But if you actually line up the rendering, the nose got shorter by like 6 inches and the rear got longer by just that much. And the entire profile of the car is almost identical.
Really?
It's
crazy. I just think their lines are harsher.
It looks wild and you're like, whoa. Yeah, it does. It looks way more intense.
Right.
But, it kind of kept some of those same features. So, okay, we'll circle it all the way back around. First batch. Is you're a brand new company.
Yep.
You came out with a board and you said, this is us. Right. That's your first batch. That's your first shot.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you do after that is no longer first batch.
Right.
You redo it. You update. You come out with a whole new version. Look, you've proved yourself. You've built it. You've already gone through the process. You should not, every single car, every single board you come out with, you don't have to prove yourself.
Right.
There can be issues. That's okay. We need those as OEMs just as much as people riding them, need to experience. Like nobody wants you to experience failure, but it's inevitable that there is a percentage, of failure everywhere, everything you do in life.
Well, and there's every single component of every board of every manufacturer has some type of failure rate. Some percent of them fail, especially speed controllers. And there's hundreds, if not, I don't even know.
Yeah, it can be as simple as vibration, as a wire coming loose that then shorts us. Like there's so many variables that come into play. If the design is crap, then you're just an idiot for buying it. You didn't do enough research. Like, I'm sorry, just you should be knowledgeable, but to just say wait, I don't want to buy a 2-year-old car that's brand new. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right.
So it came out in 2015, but I can get it in 2020 and it's still brand new. Yeah, I want that. No, bro, I want the 2020 that came out yesterday.
Right.
I don't care who else has had it. Like, that's the excitement. I want to be the first.
Yeah.
We should want to be the first. If we don't, there's no innovation. Right. We're not going anywhere.
Right.
We're all going to be riding the same thing because, well, we all know that this works. We'd all be on boosted, which if you look at the $700 market, they all look like a boosted.
Yeah.
They all do. So.
Right. So yeah, it's very interesting. So anyway, to the idea that you shouldn't support first batch stuff. Honestly, first of all, there's people who are just fans of companies who will buy the first batch of everything and everything.
Yep.
Because they just want to support. And to those people, you guys are the ones that make it happen.
Yep, 100%.
For real. Because then you got Kickstarters and stuff, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Those are those people buy into the brand, It's not just, if you just want to ride a board and you want to buy everything on the market, go for it, man. Do your thing. But some people just support brands, which is nice.
Right. So I'm getting a phone call. That's okay. I'm not going to answer it. So next topic, kind of about first batches, right? So as you guys know, we've been talking about it a lot. We were working on a carbon fiber board that'll hold the 12S8P Stormcore. It'll, we're kind of calling it the Hadian with twice the battery for less money. We discovered something relatively big. So we got my first sample a while ago, and I've been riding that sample. That's my personal board. I've been, beating the hell out of it for the last little while. I mean, I feel like I took it to Catalina, rode monster hills over there. I just took it to wetlands a couple of days ago. We're going out to Red Rock now tomorrow, or I guess this morning as this podcast comes out. And it's been great. So we ordered, but a couple of the finishes were just, some cosmetic stuff that needed to get fixed. So we sent in some corrections. We ordered 3 more samples. Only 2 of them arrived because of whatever. I think they messed one of them up. I think they probably scratched one of them and didn't want to send it or something. But so we built up the second board. So we actually have 2 identical boards and put the lid on it. And I go to stand on it and I hear, and I'm like, huh. I'm not a very heavy person. I'm like 180 pounds.
Sounded like a bag of popcorn.
Sounded not right. So then I stood on it more. I just hear cracking, and I'm just like, but I don't see anything. I just hear it, and I'm like, is it the lid? Is it the hardware settling? What is happening?
Because we had a so that deck is a 12S 8P fit. Yeah, we only had a 4P battery in it, so we did have.
There is some empty space.
Yeah, we had quite a bit of styrofoam just to kind of fill in the dead space. So when you stood on the enclosure, it didn't just cave in. So, those were the first things we, of course, thought.
So the plan is, though, we will offer this board with a 12S 4P option, but we will have inner
no styrofoams,
no foam. We'll have a nicer support system, whether it be a legitimate foam insert that's meant to be there, or some kind of support in there. And then and also these second batches, they didn't give me pure carbon fiber lids. They gave me carbon fiber and fiberglass lids. So they were way flimsier than they were supposed to be. So I figured, okay, maybe it's the lid. I don't know. So we pulled the pure carbon fiber lid off my board that's been riding really well, put it on this new board, stood on it, and I'm still hearing cracking. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I don't understand what's going on. So I go back, I'm looking at both of them. Unfortunately, like, they're both built boards, slightly different setups. So I can't even just weigh the boards to see if there's any differences in weight or anything like that. So I'm trying to think, and I'm like, well, like, I'm wondering if when they sent me these lesser lids, so they were supposed to send me full carbon fiber lids, and they sent me carbon fiber and fiberglass lids, which for anyone who doesn't know, fiberglass is, you get similar results aesthetically with fiberglass, but it's not nearly as strong as carbon fiber.
It's like a filler.
It's a filler. So you can add it. It's like an additive. You can add it to carbon fiber to make your carbon fiber material last longer without spending the money, which again is in some applications is totally acceptable. In some applications where maybe it's like an enclosure where you don't need the strength, you just want the look and, save some money, don't pass it all the way on to your customers. That makes sense. But in the aspect of a deck where it needs to be strong, that's not okay. So anyways, I was pretty upset about the lids coming in that incorrect, but I was like, you know what? Again, they're samples, like not the end of the world, whatever. The deck's a little flimsier than I'd like it to be. Well, we can add supports from the bottom, not a huge deal. We'll move on. Well, but now my deck is like starting to sound wrong too. So I'm like, I wonder if, my first deck, because I asked for pure carbon fiber for our deck. So, I'm sitting here, okay, maybe the first one's the pure carbon fiber we asked for. And the second one's like, I don't know, filled with fiberglass or even got foam in it, like foam filled. So then we're like, okay, we're stepping on this second built one, and we're still hearing these sounds. And then we have another deck that's nothing's in it at all. It's totally clear, totally empty, but from the same batch as our bad deck. And we're like, you know what? Let's break this thing. Let's stand on it.
Hey, Jacob. Come over here.
So yeah, like that's the thing is Jacob has stood on my board that I ride, and it's fine. Like
I'm a good like
because what
top of
you
the
weigh
line
like
tester.
you're 6'5".
When I'm loaded up, it's 250 easy, and I ride what I think is fairly hard. I'm not light on a skateboard.
Right.
That's
so
for sure.
You stand on my current board, it's fine, no issues. But you stand on this new one that's built up, and again, it's just like clearly flexing more. Right. It's carbon, and it's not supposed to do that.
Right.
Not supposed to flex.
It was like an in-between of like a bamboo and
it's weird.
Carbon. It was really weird.
It was so strange. But
you could sort of bounce on it a little, but not. It didn't sound good.
It wasn't quite. It wasn't right. So we are, all right, let's go into the office. We'll set up the empty board on like a stack of wheels where the nose is.
I walk out into the warehouse, and they're like, we're going to break this thing open.
Of all the things that we have available to us, we picked we picked wheels to try to balance on.
Well, I kind of pictured them like sawing it open or something.
Yeah,
we could have done that. But then they're like, let's just stack this up and jump on it. I'm like, oh boy,
we didn't want to necessarily saw it open. We wanted to know realistically how much actual force it took to break it for real.
Right.
Yeah.
And where
it would break. We wanted to know, like, because we propped them up right where the trucks would be mounted. So that's the same pressure. That's the same leverage that the deck would have. And of course, as we all know, of all these, these bottlenose deck shapes, of course, the weakest part is the neck. That's just how physics work. That's the thinnest part.
That shoulder, really.
Shoulder, yeah.
Neck, shoulder.
So
we call it like a body.
So we started bouncing on it. We can hear cracking. We can't see anything. We hear it. And then we're like, all right, let's start just jumping on it.
They're holding hands for balance and jumping on this board.
So
in this
finally,
room. In this room.
Right here. Yeah. So finally, Jacob just does.
Mike, get out of the way.
Get out of the way.
Okay, I'm gonna jump.
I'm gonna jump on it.
Jacob hadn't jumped for it.
So
yet.
Jacob jumps 1 foot in the air,
if that. My feet were like it was as high as I could jump. I was maybe 3 inches off the board.
So he goes up and then down and goes. Finally deforms the whole deck, breaks it. Still can't quite see inside of it yet.
Right.
So we continue to jump on it, and finally we can get the nose to totally break open and look inside. And sure as shit, it is filled with foam.
Yeah.
So I was like, what the hell? Like, we've been asking for pure carbon. Foam filled is not pure carbon. I'm sitting there at the convention saying, yep, these are all fully pure carbon. Someone asked, so-and-so did, I can't remember what company it was, but so-and-so, theirs is, foam filled. Is yours foam filled? I said, nope, ours is full carbon. Sitting there talking like 100% like I know what I'm talking about.
Well, that was our understanding.
That was our understanding. I asked for pure carbon. So now I went back to our supplier. I've been talking to them. And we did some research. Upon further research, every freaking carbon fiber board has got foam in it.
Yeah, not so uncommon.
Not uncommon at all, and it actually seems like it's almost an essential part of the assembly process.
Yeah, depending on sort of the style, of what you're looking at, it definitely seems that, the carbon fiber has to be shaped around something. So you can go wood, you can go styrofoam, which seems to be kind of more common, but there is an element of how much is used of one, because if you use more styrofoam, you have less carbon fiber. If you use more carbon fiber, of course you have less styrofoam.
But it's not quite styrofoam. It's like this high density. Yeah. It is stronger, but still, it's not.
It's very firm.
It is very firm. It's very hard.
Yeah.
But still, though, so then I'm like, so I went back to our supplier and I said, what?
Think surfboard, right? Like a surfboard is styrofoam,
right?
Underneath. Yeah. So I mean, it's not a surfboard. It's not the same material, but the same concept.
So my point is, there's nothing. So like all these big brands, all these luxury brands, these nice carbon fiber boards, there's nothing wrong with their decks that they have foam in them, because we did some legitimate research. All these brands use foam. They all do. So that kind of, I talked myself off a ledge a little bit, because I thought, see, the issue with working with vendors and suppliers is you ask for a sample, right? And they make a beautiful, pristine, the best they can sample for you. And the moment you actually buy a full batch of them, that same attention is not given to each and every one of them. So you get potentially subpar products after your beautiful sample that you love so much. So that's what I'm thinking originally. I'm like, oh, great, they made this awesome sample. Now they're trying to see what they can get away with. They're trying to see if I'll complain about the carbon fiber and fiberglass lids. They're trying to see if I'll complain about a foam-filled deck. Well, so I went back to them and asked, I said, hey, are these decks pure carbon? And she goes, yes. I said, there's no other material inside. She goes, well, no, there's foam. I said, why?
About to get on a plane and whoop some ass
I said, well, why is there foam inside? I said, we asked for pure carbon. So now I'm like understanding. And now I'm learning that pure to them is pure carbon with foam, not carbon and fiberglass with foam.
Right.
So that is where their miscommunication occurred. I said, well, why? So what's the difference between our first deck and our last two decks that suck? And she said, no, they're made the exact same way. I said, it can't be right.
Bullshit.
There's no way. So now we're at the point where I believe they were made the same way, but I don't believe the ratio of carbon fiber to foam was the same. I believe they used a lot more foam. I'm sorry. I believe they used a lot more carbon fiber in my original board than they did in the new second boards. So, and once we broke it open, you could see that there's like the outer wall of the entire deck is actually relatively thin. It actually is remarkable how little carbon fiber there is in these decks compared to, the foam inside. So the problem is I'm not going to break open my only good deck to see and to compare, how much carbon's in that one compared to how much carbon's in this one. So now we're at the point where we have to try to quantify what a reasonable and acceptable thickness, like wall thickness for these decks are, to the point where they're actually strong. Because I'm at the point where I don't mind there's foam in them, because realistically, upon our research, if it is pure carbon, one, they are so expensive you'd never, ever be able to sell them to a customer ever. I mean, you would, but it'd be like $1,000 decks, and like that's not what we're doing.
Right.
Or they have foam to make them lighter. Oh, so they're $1,000, but they're really heavy. Or you put foam in them, they're a little bit cheaper, and not even cheaper. They're just actually affordable and doable. Like, I'm not trying to pinch pennies. Like, we're not at that. We're trying to make it possible, right?
Carbon fiber is light because it's usually able to be thin. Right. So that's usually so when we say carbon fiber is very heavy, like it is very heavy. When you have that many layers,
when you have that much of
carbon fiber, it is going to be heavy. There's no doubt about it. Carbon fiber becomes light because you can use less of it usually. So that's
like
a thinner layer.
Yeah, and it is light when you compare it to metals and stuff, but it gets heavy compared to wood.
Right.
And other things like that. So anyways, So we're at the point where we're just trying to figure out, what's the acceptable wall thickness is. And I'm trying to explain like what wall thickness is. But I guess if you were to take our board and you did a cross section of it, of the nose, you'd see an outline of carbon, and then you'd see the center core of foam. And we're just trying to figure out how thick that wall needs to be.
It's almost like they make the deck in foam and then
like a mini version.
So
carbon fiber.
They sent me photos of this foam insert they make, and it's literally a shrinked version of your deck, completely made out of foam that they now insert into your carbon fiber mold, and then they layer the whole thing with carbon, which is awesome. But they need to shrink that foam more so there's more carbon is where we're at. So now the only issue we have to come up with now is quantifying that. What is I'm trying to figure out how to explain to them how much carbon is acceptable, how much is not. And then we also need to test these boards in-house somehow without actively breaking them all. So we're trying to figure that out.
Yeah, they're going to have to do a jump test.
Yeah, right. So, and that's what needs to happen. But I don't want to do a jump test, hear a crack, but don't see anything, and then still receive it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what the plan is yet. Honestly, if they could and I hope they keep record, if they have record of how much weight in carbon went into our first board compared to our second boards, we'll be fine.
I think it's quantified as like layers.
Right.
So, we'll look at how that works out. And then there was a design change we were looking at by changing the nose to have like no foam at all. And keeping the nose and the shoulder. So really just like let's call it like a subframe of the board.
Yep.
So basically where the battery enclosure is, and then the rails, those are weight saving. Not that there's not strength required there, but the carbon fiber in itself is plenty strong.
Well, let's put it this way. The carbon's not breaking in the center of the board. Boards do not break in the center.
It's not really a weak spot.
No,
honestly.
it's the necks, it's the shoulders. That's where it breaks every time. Every time if you talk to anyone that's broken, like their trucks clean off their board, it always happens, or if they've broken their board at all, it always happens at that neck right there. So that's where we're thinking, let's go pure just in that area, or at least triple or quadruple the layer. Right. Just really.
Because they have to still be able to mold and work with the shape. So there's going to have to be something that they'll be able to use. But it might even be a thin veneer strip of wood that they're just able to use that to build off of. And, we have options.
Yep.
So it's trickier, right?
Yep.
Because you go to a manufacturer and you expect all these things they tell you they can do, but there is this is the part that's fun, exciting, but extremely difficult because the time that it takes.
Yeah, the issue
the money
is
that goes into it. Right now, there's no return on anything you do. Nothing. Everything we do right now costs money.
Is pretty much a waste of money.
And we're just crossing our fingers that these fuckers are gonna get it right.
Right.
If they don't get it right, you don't get $1 back.
No, that's the thing is a lot of these samples, first of all, they take usually a month to make. Mm-hmm. And then it's every time a sample comes back wrong, it pushes our release date a month. And we've decided, I was we'll try to get this board out by April. Oh, we'll try to get it out by May. Now we're at the point where we're not setting a release date. We are just going to come out with it when it's ready. And that's kind of what Metro Board's been doing. They've been working on a board for 2 years, but it's going to be phenomenal. It's just going to be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we'd have done this with the decks a month or two ago, but the reality was we needed and we wanted visuals
at
for
the convention. Right.
So we did not have that board ready to ride, and we never intended to. It was really just a dummy board. It didn't have.
I had my personal board out there to ride, but that was it.
The other one was not. It had dummy electronics in it, and then the third one just was an enclosure.
Yeah, no, it was just empty.
Yeah,
people could see the inside.
So we definitely weren't trying to dupe anybody, and we wouldn't have put that board on the road either way. But it would have been nice if we had known.
I definitely did tell people though that our boards were going to be full carbon all the way through, no foam, and that was not accurate. So the good news is I didn't put it on the website. We didn't sell it as that. We just told a handful of people in passing, at the convention, that's what our plan was. But upon further review, that's no longer the plan.
And you're getting into a whole new world. So you're learning so much. You haven't been in the carbon fiber industry. So it is still a learning process for both of us.
So the good news is we know, like I am super thankful that when we stepped on that board that it was weak, because now we know that this is something to really watch for. It wasn't like taking our supplier, our manufacturer's, word for it, because they don't really know. Like they do know, like they do make skateboard decks, like that's what they do. But still, though, we were able to experience that problem for ourselves before we made 50 of them or 100 of them. We were able to do, okay, we've only made 3 so far. Good. Now that we know this is a problem, this should never happen again.
Yeah.
And the only, so we're trying to figure out also how we could potentially test the density of our decks, like with some kind of commercial scanner. I don't know how we will do it. Hopefully it's just a weight thing.
There's density scanners, X-ray scanners. We used to use them a lot in my previous jobs, but the question will just be, finding one that can grab foam and carbon fiber. But realistically,
I think we can just weigh them.
They can see everything, and you could weigh it, but you'd have to know that the foam and the carbon don't weigh the same.
Well, right.
So if they do, then
they must weigh different, because the foam is supposed to be weight saving, so it must be lighter. But again, we'll have to figure that out.
But then if they threw fiberglass in it and you don't know it, so we just need to look at it and see, what the overall construction is without sawing this board in 40 different spots, because that's not realistic.
Right. But what's interesting though is I think realistically we can, when you step on a board for the first time, I know it's not scientific, but the sound it makes is very telling.
Yes.
So before every board goes out, just going to step on the board.
Yep.
Do a couple hops.
And knowing the difference between the deck making a sound and your trucks and pivot cups. Right. Because those inevitably are noisy.
Right. So I think honestly, every board that goes out, you just step on it, give it a couple hops. You can visually see if there's flex or not. Honestly, at that point, you're probably pretty safe, especially when you add in that we're going to be strengthening up those weak spots already. I think we're going to be fine.
Yeah, I think we've added a layer of QC in that, if we can get this to where the scanner is able for us, we're able to use it. We can QC every deck that comes in right away.
Right.
As soon as it comes off, we QC it. We say, yep, this one at least checks the first box off the list.
Right.
And we can go build it.
Yep. So we'll figure out an actual QC process for that. But I'm excited to show you, because I wanted to be pretty open and upfront about I would say it's a little bit of it's a setback, not a failure. It's actually, we got great, data from that. We got a great experience to learn. Hopefully this whole experience saves someone from major injury, because now we know that we're looking for something very specific.
Yeah.
We're going to go out of our way to ensure that the decks are stronger than they were before. So, I don't know. I'm kind of thankful for the experience. It sucks because it cost me a lot of money and time. But
like Elon Tesla, right? It's failure is part of the process.
Yep.
And you don't succeed until you're confident and everything is right. So
yeah, we were discussing whether or not we wanted to talk about it on the podcast. We were worried that people would, by telling this, people would be worried about buying our new board, because I heard they broke and I heard that the decks were bad. We discussed it and we were like, what though? If we discuss it and we were upfront about it, I think people would respect the idea of being straight up, and people, now that we know about it, obviously it won't it shouldn't happen now. So, I don't know. We'll see how, what do you guys think about the process? I don't know. We're just trying to keep you guys included on the whole process. I know there's a bunch of you guys really waiting for this board to come out, but we want to just kind of keep you in the loop and kind of keep you filled in on where we're at in production. And I don't know. It's kind of weird, but we'll see.
We'll be all right.
Yeah. So I think that's the main thing as far as production goes. That's the only thing. Battery production is slowly ramping.
The whole time we're doing a whole nother deck on the side and in an enclosure.
Yeah, and the whole time we're doing this, we're trying to get our bamboo deck done with an enclosure, and that's been really tricky because we're trying to get a enclosure that's flexible. So I had already designed one, and I had gotten a sample made, and like the moment, like literally the moment I even, first of all, if this tells you anything, I ordered 4 of them, and I think all 4 of them showed up broken.
Yeah.
Like in some way or somehow. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not good. Like if it can't even survive shipping here, then how is it going to survive like on a board? So back to the drawing board on that one. We're trying to figure out, I'd love to use Kydex. I'd really like that material. But we're trying to figure out how we're going to vacuum form it potentially here in the US. So I don't know. We're trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the best way of doing it, I think, would be injection molding, but that mold is going to cost probably $3,000 to $4,000. So
sometimes the hard part is making it look pretty too.
Yeah, injection molding kind of sucks sometimes.
It'll just look like your Tupperware up there, like it's just a box.
Right.
Goes on a board.
So the reason why I really like vacuum forming is because the molds are so cheap that we get to make changes.
Yeah.
Like we get to go, okay, well, that was fun for 50 units. Let's change this. And let's change this. And every month we could change it. And because the molds are like a couple $100.
Yeah.
It's usually a CNC piece of like wood or plastic where it's really cheap. Whereas when you do plastic injection molding, it's this gigantic like steel like frame and all, like it's insane.
There, yeah.
So it's like you don't get the luxury of changing things on the fly like we do now. Like it's awesome. Like making enclosure samples is actually really cheap because, well, it's not cheap. I mean, it still costs a lot of money. $400 for one enclosure is expensive for you to go, nah, I don't like it. But what's nice is once you are in production with an enclosure, to be able to make changes every quarter or every couple months to refine it here and there. That's really nice. That luxury is really nice to have. And I guess maybe that's where the buying a first batch thing comes into play is sometimes it's later on you do get, nicer refinements and stuff that you maybe wouldn't get in the first place.
Maybe
though, but maybe
right? Or the alternative is like they just change the whole thing.
Right. And you don't like it anymore.
And then every year you turn into you have like Apple, right? Like,
yeah.
Great. I just bought this thing. Now there's a new one next year.
And it's going to look the same.
I just bought this one. Now there's a new one next year. And it's like every time it gets like,
right.
We would love for you guys to buy every single board that goes out of here and for everybody to try it. But it's not the reality. Your business model is that, look, buy one board and just upgrade the shit out of it until you're tired of it or, until you're ready for the next one. That's right. This platform that you're going to be putting under people's feet is going to allow them, to have something that's lightweight that goes 25 miles. Or if they want to build a tank, like I want to build this thing with the 8P in it, like just monstrous, just make this thing ridiculous and go play on it. So.
Yeah. So we're working on it, guys. I know that everyone's like really excited about these new boards.
You had very high expectations on your timeline, and I kind of like didn't really say much. But
hey,
this dude was trying to have this board ready by the end of March. He's like, we'll get it out by the convention. I'm like in my head, I'm like, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, dude.
Like I'm looking more like June. I think July.
I think June's really realistic.
Yeah,
I think it is.
I think June for sure with the carbon fiber. July. We'll see how the bamboo goes. The bamboo could actually happen very fast.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's your flagship, so I don't know that we'll see that as a complete.
The idea is the bamboo version will end up replacing the Interstellar. That'll be our new Interstellar. Then our carbon fiber board will be our Endurance. Nice. That's our newest board. And there'll be 2 different boards, pretty much the same. I mean, the internals, or a lot of them are the same. But they're just 2 different boards. We'll update the Interstellar to be it's going to be one hell of a refresh because it's going to look completely different. But it's going to be,
that will be like a 2.0, not.
Yeah. That'll be like Interstellar 2.0. Like
it's different enough. Like I think when we make changes and they're just like replacements, pretty direct replacements, then it doesn't require.
Yeah. I think we're on version 1.5 right now.
Yeah.
Every time we change
1.492.
Every time we change any components out, we update the change log. But when we come out with this new board, which honestly it comes down to the enclosure, and that's pretty much it. I mean, once we get that nailed down, then I need to just do a run of decks, and we're ready to rock. So there's actually a deck company here in Las Vegas that makes decks.
Yep.
So I might reach out to them to see if they can help because it'd be really awesome to get decks made locally. But we'll figure it out. I don't know. So anyway, that's a major update on our boards. Like I think I don't know if I was planning on talking about these boards the entire time, but you know what? I think this will be interesting for some of you guys who've been following the project. I know some of you. I know like Anthony's like shaking. He wants a board so bad, but you know what though? I'm super happy I didn't give him one of these. So, Anthony will probably end up with one before we release it. I'd like to give like a handful of like super fans, I guess, or whatever you want to call them. I'd like to give them the opportunity to buy a board before we release,
right?
Just so we can give them like super special attention on like getting feedback and stuff. But we'll see, because I don't want to give them a beta board. That's not okay.
No.
But I do want to give them maybe like just an early release unit that, you know, maybe has a couple finishing things that aren't quite there or something. I don't know, but I'd like to get them into people's hands and then, you know, hear what they have to say and stuff. But we'll figure it out. If you're interested in that, let me know. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. But anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you guys.
Yeah, if you guys have been following Geckoderm, we've been kind of quiet there, but it's because there's a lot going on behind. We have to update the website. We have probably 10 or 12 new skins that are out. So if you haven't seen it on our website and you're still looking for one for your boards, message us. We might have it already.
Right.
It's just not listed on the website. Between the convention and Board Bumpers, Geckoderm, and MBoards, it just gets to be a lot. So we're learning a better schedule to, you know, make time for everything.
I'm at I think I'm gonna do 75 hours here this week.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
But not including time at home I spend, which sucks.
I would say I was working till like 10:30 last night at home with a little spotlight, Geckoderm and a board, but you know, we fucking love it, man.
Yeah, so no, I wouldn't trade it.
We're not complaining, but just if you have a question, buzz us, social media, hit us on the emails, anywhere. We're responding. We're still here.
Yeah.
We just haven't
things just are a little slow.
Updated the part that makes us money, but you know, life goes on. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
All right.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys, you know, always every week you're all here. So it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, give us some questions for next week. We're back on schedule, so
yeah, we'll have a regular podcast again next week. So any questions, topics, anything you guys want to talk about, like I'd like for you guys to participate in the show as much as possible. So, you know, drop those in the comments below, and we will.
We'll be awake for it. Yeah, it'll be in the afternoon.
Yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you next week. Peace.